Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call this meeting of the Scarborough Town Council to order. Today is Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, and it is 6 p.m. If you would now join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tody, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Doherty.
Here.
Councilor Kane.
Here.
Councilor Donovan.
Here.
Councilor Anderson.
Here.
Council Chair Snyder.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is general public comment. If there's anyone in the audience or online that would like to make public comment on something that is not on our agenda this evening, now is the time to do so. You are reminded to please state your name and address for the public record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hi, Denise Hamilton, 2 Rod Road. I was going to make a comment to the town manager's report at the last meeting and didn't realize there's not public comment after it. So a couple of things. One is regarding Scotto Hill Road. And I'm going to have to go kind of on the fly here because I then read the newsletter tonight as I was eating dinner with some additional information. Are there any other, I had read where the grant pertained to only closing the road. Are there other grants available to fixing the road? Because so long as we continue to develop in town, the last thing we need to be doing is closing roads, especially west of Route 1. And with the continued closure, it's really causing safety issues for the lower part of 2 Rod Road between Payne Road and Scotto Hill. More motorists are using that road. They're driving too fast. In fact, 2 weeks ago after the town council meeting, I went home that and almost got broadsided. I had to go off the road to keep from getting hit. It's a problem. That's somewhere we don't need to be closing roads. And on top of that, how long does it take to replace guardrails on the corner of Scotto Hill Road and Higas Parkway? Those guardrails have been down for months. They're all twisted, laying there, orange cones that are getting hit. It looks pathetic. If it was east of Route 1, these things would have been fixed a long time ago. I got to skip through, sorry. Oh, and I wanted to address John's comment, and sorry, John, I'm going to steal your thunder here, that you made at the Scarborough Housing Alliance meeting about opening discussion about modifying term limits for committees and boards. These term limits were only put into effect this year and designed to ensure fresh voices, new perspectives, and broader community participation. Some current members have already served many years and with conflict of interest, and without term limits, the same individuals could remain indefinitely. Before considering any changes, I urge the council to allow this policy to function as intended. Term limits promote fairness, accountability, and help keep local government accessible to all taxpayers, not just the same few people year after year. Since applicants aren't voted in by the taxpayers, it does make it difficult for new people to be nominated and recommended for open positions, as so many people are reluctant to change, and it's easier to leave the existing people in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make general public comment this evening? Welcome.
Hi. My name is Kelly Kuznarak, and I live on Pin Oak Drive at the Oaks. I'd like to address a couple of traffic and pedestrian safety concerns that I experience in my neighborhood. I frequently travel from Pin Oak Drive out onto Maple Avenue and approach Maple Ave at night from Pin Oak Drive. It's a very dark corner as I look both ways. When I come down Maple Ave and turn into Pin Oak, I sometimes encounter pedestrians walking in the dark in that area, but I Never see them until I am practically on the turn. And yes, I am traveling the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. As I drive up Maple from Route 114 and make that right turn onto Pin Oak again, I do not see pedestrians until I am very close to that intersection. There needs to be illumination on that corner. There is a light pole right there on the corner just waiting for a street light. Another area that needs a street light is the intersection of Green Acres, First Street, Sunset Road, and the exit off of the 295 connector. This is over by the Scarborough Veterinarian. There are 4 roadways that converge into that intersection that go to Route 1. It's a dark intersection when approaching from Route 1, and trying to see the islands in the dark coming from Sunset Road or First Street is a problem. The curbs on those islands are not easy to see at night. There's also a light pole right there on the islands where a street light probably should be. Another area of concern is the corner of Sawyer Road and Route 114. I know this has been an issue for a couple of years now, and I'm tired of nothing being done about it since I am a frequent traveler of that area. Last summer, I almost had a collision with a large white SUV as I was coming east on 114 from Maple Ave. I wasn't even reaching the speed limit, and this woman pulled out of the intersection and stopped in the middle of the road when she saw my vehicle. I stopped quickly as well, and she waved me to go around her. This is a dangerous intersection coming out of Sawyer Road because of the overgrown hedges of the property owner that are causing a blind spot. I spoke with Public Works last summer and this summer. This summer, the Public Works Department proposed to cut the hedges, or no, last summer, and put up a large fence, which I felt was too drastic as well. I was told recently the property owner was going to trim back the hedges. However, nothing has been done to this day. If there is ever a critical accident on that corner, the liability in this investigation through insurance and litigation could lead to that homeowner with those hedges. And it seems that this problem has already been documented with the Public Works Department. Something needs to be done about it. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this.
Anyone else wishing to make general public comment this evening? Welcome.
Hi, Nina McKee, 309 Black Point Road. This is sort of a leftover from last week. I was astounded sitting here and listening to how much you all do. The committees, 3 committees on every person. I just kept thinking, I think that maybe the council needs to be larger, because the burdens that you have and the responsibilities is really awesome. And, you know, we're just a few people here from town of what, 23 or 24,000 people, but I'm sure that everybody feels that way. You're just wonderful. And I meant to say this last week, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina. Anyone else wishing to make general public comment this evening? Seeing no one in the room, no one online, I will close public comment. Item 5 on our agenda are the meeting minutes from September 17th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I show that is unanimous. Thank you. Item 6 on our agenda is adjustments to the agenda. I have none this evening. Item 7 is items to be signed treasurer's warrants. I took care of that prior to the meeting. And item 8 is the town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While it's fresh in my mind, I'll address comments just received from the podium. With respect to streetlights, our practice is to illuminate intersections in particular. Other areas, can certainly be illuminated, but more often than not, it's intersection areas for obvious reasons. We can certainly take a look at the locations that were mentioned. I will mention I had a conversation with the town engineer just earlier this week, actually, with respect to the location off the spur next to the veterinary clinic. That's a very confusing intersection. There's a lot of pavement, a lot of different curbs, choices, frankly, too many. And I believe the clinic is doing some pretty major renovation, including their parking lot. We're working with them to actually do a little test in that area by blocking off some of those intersections and simplifying the choices for motorists. But your point's well taken. We'll also look at the lighting. Lastly, with respect to Sawyer Road and 114, that is a longstanding issue, frankly. We've had limited success working with a private property owner. The hedge is almost entirely on private property. In the past, we've been successful doing modest trimming. We believe we do have his permission to do that again, and that's scheduled. It's complicated enough that we actually have to have a contractor come in, and so that work is scheduled. I'll report back to the council what that timing is. I'll speak to Scott Hill a bit further as we go here. Eastern Trail, I might drop this off because the work is kind of stopped for the winter. But at this point, I'm still making efforts to contact one of the primary abutters who has a private drainage system that crosses underneath the area that we're building. We see value and opportunity to replace that drainage line before we actually improve some area above it. So I'll keep endeavoring in that regard. With respect to Scott Hill, we did provide an update in the e-newsletter that was referenced earlier. We're still in this kind of evaluation phase. One party that I do want to connect with again is Flaherty Farm. You know, they're affected in many ways. And so I have a meeting scheduled with Jack and Jim Flaherty to receive their input. I've received it kind of just in passing each of them, but I want to do it a bit more formally. So the two options that we're still considering is a conventional replacement of the culvert. We'll not be able to replace the culverts in kind, if you will. There'll be a much more elaborate concrete box culvert and much more expensive, frankly. At this point, our working number is between 2 and 3 million, which is just a staggering number. I question my staff. It just seems beyond belief. But through some of the discussions we're having with Sawyer Street, it's not a different scenario in many respects. With respect to grant funding, this area is under the regulatory control and authority of the Army Corps of Engineers. And when we met to consult with them, you know, within hours or a day of the collapse of the culvert, you know, they were advising us what our options were and brought to our attention that they have a grant program and encouraged us to apply for it. Unfortunately, that grant program only pertains to the option, which would be to remove the culvert and return the stream. These are monies that are paid into wetland mitigation statewide, and Army Corps controls those. Frankly, I believe it's the same funding source that Sawyer Street is. The other point is worth making is that the regulations, because of the sensitive area and kind of the tidal aspects, is that we cannot do any work between essentially May and November, the summer months. So, you know, the reality is that road is going to stay closed through the winter because regardless of which option we take, we don't have funds currently allocated in the budget to do the fix. And we do appreciate that there's any number of considerations that we've not even touched on, and not the least of which receiving public input. So we do fully expect to engage the public in a conversation. Frankly, we're waiting to see if that grant was actually viable, because that's just another data point that would be helpful to know. Moving on, the Spurwink Street, I just kind of referenced. We did have a kind of reintroduction meeting, if you will, last week on the 24th of September. This project has been around for about 3 years, but really given that length of time, I think people have kind of lost touch with it. And so we want to kind of bring it back to our community. Many of us weren't able to be here, but my staff was. The report was that it was well attended. I think it was successful in terms of reintroducing it to the public and receiving some input. This project is done in lockstep with our colleagues in Cape Elizabeth. And for their part, they have a meeting on October 8th. So we're anxious for them to do much the same. They've been receiving a lot of input. And in fact, I reached out to council leadership today, and we have a meeting scheduled for October 9th to kind of check in with our colleagues in Cape to see where this is going, because one can't do it without the other. So we'll be making some decisions early in October as to whether this matter comes before council at all, frankly. With respect to dredge activity, we're pleased that unsolicited, the Army Corps of Engineers reached out to us, have been in town doing some sampling. They were here just 3 years ago, and typically it's a 10-year interval. So really pleased that they appreciate that there's been some sand accretion. A lot of sand has come back into the river, and I see Scott nodding. He navigates that daily. And it can be really unsafe depending on the tides and other circumstances. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get Army Corps in on a much earlier schedule than is their normal. As an aside, we also received an inquiry from folks in Saco who are have been working for decades, frankly, on the Camp Ellis challenges. And let's be honest, a lot of the sand that we have is coming from that end of the bay. It just kind of cycles through the bay. They're very interested in actually using sand that's dredged from our river and bringing it down as part of their much larger plan to rebuild the jetty in Saco Bay, at Camp Ellis. So we've got a meeting scheduled with them in a couple of weeks and anxious to see if that is fruitful. A couple of just housekeeping things. We do have Sustainable Scarborough Day this coming Sunday, October 5th, 10 to 2 at Wentworth School. This is building, I think, in popularity. Appreciate the council. Many of you have already agreed to participate and have a presence during that day, and I hope you'll find that worth it. We really look forward to it. Are pleased to advise that the fire department is restarting their fire prevention open house. This is something that former Chief Thurlow really prided himself on. We kind of fell away from it during COVID, and Chief Kinlan has brought it back, and we expect it will be a well-received event in the community as well. I also included in your packet, and this is, I haven't had time to really study it, but I wanted to make sure you had it. This is the first year that we've actually kept some data and statistics in terms of beach activity. And at this point, we have 3 different sets of employees, park rangers, police reserve officers, and our animal control ordinance, or officers, excuse me. And at the beginning of the season, we asked them all on a daily basis to catalog and keep track of their interactions on the beach. And so this report is our first report that collects that data. I don't know that there's anything definitive that comes from it, but it's a data point that I think may help inform future policy discussions. I know with respect to some regulations on beaches, we have questions in the community survey. So I think it's advisable to wait for those results and take them into consideration along with these. I'll share this out with some select, we'll make it available widely on our website, but also send it directly to folks that have been interested in these matters in the past that I'm aware of. Let's see. Forgive me here. Just a quick report on a couple of the DOT projects. I think I reported on last time. The Mitchell Hill Road bridge replacement is well underway. In fact, they're ahead of schedule, and they're quite confident the week of October 13th, they'll be out of there and the road will be reopened. With respect to Pleasant Hill Road, there was a 4-day closure over a weekend, or a 3-day closure. That was very successful. They did not anticipate any need for further closure. There's some final cleanup work, but the road is back open. I'm pleased to report that many of the efforts, and I'll credit Councilor Anderson for initiating this, in terms of initiating discussion around LD 1829, how it affects us, and what, if anything, we may want to do as a region, are starting to kind of get legs, if you will. GPCOG has continued in their role as a kind of a convener of that conversation, and has invited Speaker Ryan Fecteau, who was the lead sponsor of this bill, to an upcoming Metro Coalition meeting in October that I'll be part of. Councilor Anderson's provided me a handful of questions he'd like me to pose, and I will. If anyone else has other questions, please send them my way. Be pleased to advance those. It just came to me, another question raised from the podium this evening regarding guardrails at Hygges Parkway and Scotto Hill. The speaker was absolutely correct. That's been there for months. We do have that work scheduled. It does require an outside contractor. I guess in hindsight, we could have cleaned up the mangled guardrail in the meantime, but that work is scheduled, and I can report more specifically on what the schedule is. So we're at the mercy of a contractor. Final piece of housekeeping news, just election related. Ballots are in, they've been proofed, they're ready. Our early voting process starts Monday, October 6th and extends through October 30th. There'll be a final day of early voting with some, what are they called? Special circumstance on Monday, November 3rd. And then of course the polls are open November 4th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And lastly, I wanted to just take a moment and use my time to recognize some recognition to our assessing department. Nick Cloutier, on behalf of the department, submitted an application of sorts, I guess, to the International Association of Assessors regarding what I think we all can appreciate and I think agree was a successful reevaluation process in terms of communicating why we're doing it and what those results are to our public. And with that, I'd like to recognize Nick for a few words, if I could.
Thank you, Tom. As was mentioned, the assessors grouped together to make sure we have high standards in ethics, not only in Maine, not only in the country, but internationally. So we have an organization called the International Association of Assessing Officers, and there's over 9,000 members across the world, but it services even more than that. And last week in Orlando, Florida, they had their annual meeting. I wasn't able to make it myself, but you can imagine it must be exciting. Hundreds of assessors discussing Excel spreadsheets and statistics. But one thing that was very exciting for us in Scarborough is that, as Tom mentioned, we were awarded what's called the Public Information Program Award. And they don't give out many awards, a handful each year for maybe lifetime career service or writing a really great professional article. But this one really felt prestigious. And we submitted the documentation we had put together and compiled chronicling our reevaluation process because we were very proud of it, that we rose to the standards of excellent communication, public engagement, and outreach. And it was a real team effort. And the International Association we're part of thought the same. And we were the only winner out of the whole world in 2025. And furthermore, just for a little perspective, because the world's quite large, Maine has never won this award. No jurisdiction in Maine has ever won. And to my knowledge, in the last 2 decades, only one other person from Maine won. It was for a different reason. So it's a pretty big deal for a small jurisdiction in Maine to win when we're competing against big counties and big cities for the same award. So I won't go into detail about the revaluation. You all lived it. Unless you moved to town in the last year, you lived it as well. But it was a real collaborative process. So I just wanted to do a few thank yous to the people that were part of it. First of all, the town council and the management. We walked together hand in hand. We had a lot of public workshops. We informed each other along the way to make sure it was a good public process and that it took everyone's concerns into consideration proactively, not after the fact. And then I'd also like to thank the taxpayers themselves. They were very kind to meet with me in homeowners association meetings, groups and neighborhood groups, and various special interest groups, you name it. They were all willing to educate me, and I was willing to listen. We had a good back and forth, and I was informed of what people wanted to be educated about and what they wanted the town to know before it got to the point where people were upset. So we didn't have to go that route, which many towns unfortunately wait to the last minute and then have repercussions. I'd also like to thank Allison Carrier, the communications manager for the town. She was instrumental in helping us get our messaging out. And last but not least, the most thanks I'd like to give is to my fellow assessing team members. Here with us, we have 2 of the team tonight. We have Marianne Salucci, who's the administrative assistant in our department. She's been with the town for approximately 3 years. We have Erica Fennell, the administrative coordinator, who's been with the town for approximately 4 years. And Sue Russo, the deputy assessor, was unable to make it tonight, but she's been with the town for nearly 20 years. So she's been the steady presence despite different assessors through the years. And all of them played an instrumental part in this process of making the revaluation process a real success. Marianne in particular helped with the documentation and the communication that helped us win this award, submitting this report. And that was a great effort. And then Erica and Sue particularly helped hold down the fort and keep things afloat, all the extra work they had to take on while I was busy with the revaluation. So it was a real team effort that we all contributed to, and I'd like to offer them my thanks and humble applause. And we get a cool little award statue that hasn't come in the mail yet, and I'll show it to you when it arrives.
Thank
Thank
Nick. Congratulations, and thank you for taking the time to bring your staff, really important. One thing I did want to just draw your attention to in part of my packet, and we'll provide it as well, is Sedco's published their annual report. I draw your attention to it just because I think it has some really good information. Karen Martin has put together her typical Scarborough by the numbers. I think there's just a lot of really good information. Encourage counselors and the public alike to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Tom? Yeah, John.
First, I just want to congratulate the team for their award. And Nick, you didn't thank yourself, but I want to thank you for your leadership on
Yes.
everything. to
Yeah.
Make sure to thank you. Even though I have to say, I'm getting really tired of saying how awesome you are
Yes.
at meetings. But so I'm so glad Marianne and Eric are here so that I can tell you guys how awesome you guys are. Because he's a great guy, but we know the team underneath of him is really what helps to make the dream come true. So thank you guys so much for all of your hard work. Tom, I do have a
Yes.
question for you. That's not awesome. But for the Scotto Hill thing, as you were mentioning earlier, you're right. Like I understand that we didn't budget for that this year, but if the council wanted to, right, we could always amend the budget to add in the funds if we decided we wanted to move forward with funding it, correct?
You certainly could. You'd be probably drawing from fund balance to do so, but yes,
Okay.
or some other revenue source.
So that is an option that, again, if the council elected that we wanted to
Mhm.
fix this road in that time period, this council or the next council could make the decision to amend the budget if we wanted to try and fix it, not wait until the next budget cycle. So I just want to make sure people know if we think it's important and needs to happen in that time period where we don't have the budget, we can make it happen.
That's really helpful, John. Thank you.
Good point.
Any other questions for Tom this evening? Seeing none, thank you guys. Thank you, Nick and the assessing team for coming and joining us this evening, and congratulations again on your award. Item 9 on our agenda is standing and special committee reports and liaison reports. Counselor Anderson, you want to get us started?
Yep, sure.
Thank you.
So finance meets next Thursday at 5 o'clock. On the agenda, we have a few items. One, we're continuing the discussion on the school impact fees. We're also getting some final information on the stormwater fees to make a final decision. We're reviewing the beach revenue fees, and I can't remember the fourth item, Tom. I don't know if you remember. And there's a fourth item that if you come, you'll learn about it. I did have the opportunity because Bill couldn't be at the Housing Alliance meeting to attend last week. A lot of the conversation was a little bit of a retrospective on what happened with Marshview, which was a good discussion. What I was really pumped about though was as we started to talk about other ways that we can, the turf reserve account for the school is the other thing on the budget, or for finance committee. But really, just being in that group and hearing the perspectives was how there's a lot we can potentially do around affordable housing to help people in Scarborough today that we haven't really fully explored as a council. And so I know after the meeting, I sent my comments to Bill and to Tom in terms of things I'm interested in that committee potentially exploring in that vein. And so I hope as we continue the conversation around housing and affordable housing, that we also think about our current residents and ways we can maybe help them be a little bit or deal with some of the financial challenges that they have to try and stay in their homes and do it in a way that is financially affordable for them. So thank you, Bill, for letting me attend on your behalf. It was really great. To Denise, who spoke earlier, I did mention in the meeting that I would like to revisit the term limits. And so my suggestion, and I talked to Corey, was to potentially have something for first read for discussion to send to rules and policy, and then for rules and policy to revisit that in their October meeting. And so that will kind of just start the conversation.
Great. Thank you, John. Counselor Donovan?
Appointments committee had nothing on the agenda, so it was canceled. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I will skip down the line. Scott, do you want to go? Okay, thank you. Counselor Kane?
Uh, Communications, the survey is out in the next couple of weeks. It's at the printer. It's really the ETC, the company that's running the whole survey for us. They're finalizing the print and online versions, and so we should be right on schedule to get that out with results coming back in late November. Sorry, results may be ahead of that, but the analysis for us in late November. Also, I appreciate everybody helping out with Sustainability Day. Virtually everyone, I think, has taken a couple hours here, to cover that for us. We're gonna have a table available to hand out information, and John has some excellent giveaways to bring, and we'll be able to do that, but I appreciate everybody stepping up for that. And then the other thing that Communications is working on is a effort to have counselors push out into the community, into individual neighborhoods. And hopefully in late October, November, into November. With the idea being that meeting people in a more informal setting, getting feedback, listening, and we'd hope that that may be able to inform us about 2026 counselor goals, as well as feedback that this may cross over with the survey results. But if those are in, we would also be able to kind of hear some feedback from the community on that as well. The ideas we have right now is to do it in a series of public forums in places like the fire stations and the library and all, but try to do something that's in each of the kind of defined neighborhoods, with the idea that issues specific to those areas would percolate. And so we're excited about that. And the theme we're working on right now for that is Cake with the Counselors. Did I say that right, John?
Yes.
Okay.
Because running the town is not a piece of cake.
Right.
There's a clever tagline,
And-
of course.
In a very informal effort, we've appointed John as the cupcake czar, so, which I have no doubt he'll excel at. And School Project Communications continues with their outstanding efforts. There's an article coming out in the October Scarborough Living magazine that the reporter from that is covering the school project, and a number of people have been interviewed for it and all. It's 3 or 4 pages, so it's pretty in-depth. And so we're excited about that. And Community Services, I wasn't able to attend that meeting a couple of weeks ago, but I did review it, and as of then, they have some board members that are limiting out on their terms, and so they are looking for volunteers to join that committee. And it's I believe it's a 3-year term. Is that right? And so they need some additional help, and it'd be great to get some fresh voices in there. They also reported that they had a record turnout for the youth soccer program this fall, and that continues to grow every year. And I'd like to think it's also contributing to the performance of the town soccer teams at the school level by having that feeder program. So all good news. And the last thing, which we may have already covered, but the basketball court program that fell under their purview is complete. Those courts are finished, open, and being used already.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks.
Counselor Shu.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think you can see from our agenda tonight that the Parks and Conservation Land Board has been busy. So I won't dive into that. We'll talk about that later. Last month, the Conservation Commission did not meet, but they attended the workshop that we had over, I had to Google it, Sawyer Street, not road. And it was good to have them there and support. They obviously support the removal of Sawyer Street and just for the environmental considerations. And so that was good to have that in place of the meeting there. Next week, we have ordinance committee. I'm looking at my agenda. We have a stacked agenda. The first one is we're going to finalize the short-term rentals ordinance, which will be coming hopefully our way soon. And then we've been getting some feedback about helicopter use on personal properties. So we have some ordinance coming in that. And then we have the tree care ordinance, which is coming through, which is part of the process to become a tree city. We have some parking requirements that are some ordinance changes for parking that we have to do to be in compliance with LD 427. And then we also have, if we have time, so I believe this rules and regulations for use of parks and recreational facilities is more in line about talking about maybe airplanes landing on beaches.
Yes, it starts with
Specifically-
airplanes, but it does include a couple of other things. as
Right,
well.
yep,
Yep.
okay. So that's ordinance for next week. Thanks.
Thank you. From me, I just want to make sure the council is aware that SEDCO's annual meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 28th. And if you have not yet RSVP'd to attend, it's very typical for the full council to attend. It's a lovely evening at Black Point Inn, and we get to hear from our local businesses and be with our business community. And so I encourage everyone to RSVP to that if you are available. I also attended the Sawyer Street meeting. From my perspective and takeaway, it was a really good opportunity to hear again from the public some of the concerns. We continue to hear themes around communication when something big like this is happening in town. And so I think that those concerns around communication were heard. But overall, I felt like the majority of the public speakers supported the removal and continue to support the efforts that the council is making towards advancing this. As Tom said, Cape Elizabeth residents are also meeting with their council and giving public comment to their council. And so at this point, really, as Tom said, both councils have to agree to this. And so we are keeping a close eye on what is happening in Cape Elizabeth. I have a colleague who works on the Cape Elizabeth Council who he and I have been in touch about this. And so I will continue to stay updated with him. And then as Tom said, we have a meeting with leadership next week to just touch base and make sure that we're all on the same page. And that will do it for me. Moving on to the remainder of our agenda this evening. Order number 25-087 is a 6 p.m. public hearing and second reading on the proposed amendments to Chapter 313A, the Town of Scarborough Property Tax Assistance Ordinance. And this originally came to us from Councilor Kane.
Hi, this moved forward at the first reading unanimously. It's basically changing the existing property tax relief program from a $1,000 rebate to $1,200 per year rebate on property taxes. In between that first reading and now, we've got a legal opinion that we need to clarify the eligibility date on that. So I wanted to make a motion to amend the amendment we already made for the first reading, an additional change in it as we need to move approval to amend the main motion to section 5(1)(c) to include an effective date. The proposed increase in the amount of eligibility takes effect as follows. So this is the original version of this was just all it said under C was the amount was $1,000. So now what we're amending is that section C would say $1,000 through the end of fiscal year 2026, June 30th, that's through June 30th, 2026. And the eligibility amount would be $1,200 beginning in the fiscal year 2027 through July 1st, 2026.
Great, thank you, Councilor Kane. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the floor, take public comment, and then I'll ask you for your amendment.
Do you want a second to the motion?
No, I have to have the main motion on the floor first.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, no worries. So at this point, I will take public comment on this item if there's anyone wishing to make public comment. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And now, Councilor Kane, would you like to offer your amendment, please?
Yes, would you like me to read it again?
Yes, please.
To move approval to amend the main motion to section 5(1)(c) to include an effective date. The proposed increase in the amount of eligibility takes effect as follows. Section C, $1,000 through the end of fiscal year 2026, June 30th, 2026, and $1,200 beginning in fiscal year 2027, July 1st, 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Excellent. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none? Oh, yeah, Larry, go
Second.
ahead.
I'll just point out that the reason we did this was the, two things, the, date of this enacting is coming right very close to the start of the, submission of, people who want to take part of this program for this year. And so we didn't want any confusion there. And also this will increase, it'll have a cost to the town of about $100,000, and that isn't in the current budget. So that's why we moved it.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion of the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. I'll show that as unanimous. Returning to the main motion as amended, is there any further discussion? Yes, Counselor Shu.
Sure. So I want to apologize. I left the finance committee meeting early. I did not attend last week or last month when this was on the agenda. And I think the only question or conversation I was not participating in was the conversation is if the school doesn't pass, then we have this. And what was the conversation of the expectation of if this ends up on the ballot again in 3 years? And is this kind of are we setting a precedent of like every time we have something big on the ballot, we're going to be giving, not that I'm against it, I just because my concern is the school hasn't passed, but yet we're kind of saying, here's this, I mean, obviously into hoping that it will pass, but I just would like maybe a little more feedback on that.
Sure. Counselor Anderson, do you want to address that?
We did talk about that a little bit, and for me, it was more when you look at all of these projects that are happening, the open space plan, the vulnerability assessment, the transportation assessment, there's a lot of big investments that we need to make as a community. And so unfortunately, if the school doesn't pass, that doesn't mean there still aren't big costs that we need to work through. And personally, as we go into next year, I would like to advocate that we push for a more aggressive traffic improvement plan, because a lot of our traffic projects, typically we wait because they're so expensive to do for like other groups to help pay for it, or we wait for impact fees, and it takes a long time. And I think what we've clearly heard from a lot of our residents around growth is traffic. And so I would like to hope that the next council will maybe prioritize some projects that we may want to fund and not wait. And so again, even if the school doesn't pass, I know there's stuff in the hopper that we need to do that are going to impact taxpayers. And so to be able to give those in most need a little bit of room, I think would be advisable whether the school passes or not.
Any other council comment? Counselor Kane.
Counselor Shoup is absolutely right that the original catalyst for this was the school project and the increase in taxes that'll go along with that bond issue. As we went through the process, we kind of disconnected from the school, particularly because we didn't want it to be in jeopardy if the referendum failed. And to John's point, it was kind of looked at it and said, well, there's so many other things coming. And my original purpose with it was around a lot of the discussion about housing affordability and people trying to stay in their homes, seniors in particular, trying to stay in their homes. And it isn't so much the appreciation of property because they're already in that property, but the ongoing like operating costs of taxes, utilities and all that. And so that's kind of how we landed on doing it regardless of the outcome of the school project.
Great. Any other council discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I show that as unanimous. Thank you. Order number 25-088 is 6 p.m. public hearing and second reading on the proposed amendments to Chapter 1301, Town of Scarborough General Assistance Ordinance. Liam, Tom?
Yeah, you want to take it?
Sure. So this is the
Thank you.
annual process just to update our MMA model ordinance to reflect the increases in assistance thresholds and benefits. So it's a performative process and very routine.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I'll show that as unanimous. There is no old business this evening. Moving on to new business. Order number 25-089 is first reading and schedule a second reading to approve the expenditure in an amount not to exceed $192,500 from the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund to assist the Scarborough Land Trust in purchasing 39 acres located at 3 Fenderson Place, identified by the tax assessor's map R003, Lot 021A, O'Donnell Deering Farm, as recommended by the Parks and Conservation Land Board, and authorize the town manager to execute any and all documents as are necessary to protect the town's interests. I don't see Jessica here this evening.
I missed the memo that about the 7 o'clock, not starting at 7, and so I wonder if they did as well.
Okay,
First,
that's a
I
fair
don't know if
point.
you said Scarborough Land Trust. I believe this is the Main Farmland Trust.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I will change that. It said Scarborough Land Trust on my copy. No, I just have an old copy.
Yeah.
This was on my packet. No worries.
I can introduce the matter, I think. So
Perfect. Thank
this
you,
is-
Tom.
Yes, this is a matter that's, come through a normal process. The applicant in this case is the Maine Farmland Trust. Just by way of background, to my knowledge, at least during my tenure, we've done at least 2 deals with, similar deals with the Farmland Trust. One was formerly the Fancy Farm, which is Frith Farm off Ashmont Road, and the other one is off Berry Road, Comstock Farm. In both cases, because this is the Maine Farmland Trust, unlike conservation, their goal is to keep properties in agricultural production. And so in this case, it would be to purchase not a conservation easement, but an agricultural easement that will allow the owners to continue to farm the land. For us, we get the benefit of no development, obviously. The land remains open, but not for conservation purposes. So essentially, it's serving many of the same purposes. Effectively, we're buying the development rights, or they are, and we're assisting them with some financial support to allow this property to stay in agricultural production, which I think it has been for centuries. And I see Glenn Daring sitting in the back. Glenn, his family formerly owned this property and is now reacquiring the property to combine it with the rest of their holdings. If you can appreciate the part of town, County Road, Route 22, and Broad Turn Road, if you will, you're heading toward Portland. Glenn's farm is the one that sits on the left, and all the open fields you can see on either side is essentially the land we're talking about. So again, this is to assist in the purchase of agricultural easement for 39 acres.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Absolutely, take your time.
Nina McKee, 309 Black Point Road. I don't know if it's okay to talk about the next 2 as well. There are 3 items that are about land, or just this one. Is it okay?
We'll allow it, Nina.
Thank you. So what I added it all up, and of the 3 proposals, it's 114 acres, and that total would be $742,500, which works out to $6,425 per acre. So it seems to me, I don't know how much money is in the fund. That would be important to know. But it seems to me that as long as this land is going to be clear and not full of houses in perpetuity, then I think, we are all so concerned about growth, and it seems to me it's a no-brainer to accept this if we have the money, because it will leave land open, and we need that. And that's what everybody wants. So I hope everyone is in favor of this and the next and the next. And just quickly, this is kind of a sad moment because Mrs. Roberts' rules is dwindling down to a few little places, and it's sad. I just had to say that. So anyway, thank you very much, and I hope you vote for all three.
Thank you, Nina. We're not allowed to be sad yet. If, for the public's benefit, the numbers that Ms. McKee had referenced are available, and they were included in our council packet, and there's roughly $5 million remaining in the count after these projected expenditures. Anyone else wishing to make public comment on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Council discussion? Yes, Councilor Shoup.
Sure. I think it's great that we're also exercising the land bond funds in different ways. I think we've been so focused on the 30 by 30, but I think it's good to recognize that the money is there and there are other different uses for it. I mean, this is great. I mean, agricultural preservation is just about as good as get the conservation as we can get. And so I think it's exciting also to see it going back to the O'Donnell family. And so I'm really happy to see this and happy to approve it tonight.
Other council comment? Councilor Anderson?
Yeah, just a clarification, Counselor Shoup, does agriculture count towards the 30 by 30 if we're using it for farms or no?
I thought I heard
It-
someone say specifically it does not.
We'll check.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'd be good, because I remember when we did the big open space thing, like there was something in there about agriculture. So that's why I'm thinking, I hope it does count. And if it doesn't, it's fine because it's for a good use anyways,
Right,
but
exactly.
the more we can keep that number going up, the better.
Sure, we can
But
check
yeah.
on that for a second reading.
Yeah, but yeah, I think this is great. I think it's great, farmland across Maine is depleting, and especially as all communities are growing, you're seeing less and less farmland. So I would hope that other farmers in town or areas that want to expand come forward too and ask for more land.
Thank you. Other council comment? I couldn't agree more. Farming is such a rich part of Scarborough's history, and so it's really an honor, honestly, to be able to put this forward and continue to preserve something that has meant so much to the residents of Scarborough for so long. And so I will certainly be supporting this evening. With that, I will go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor? I show that as unanimous. Thank you. Order number 25-090 is first reading and schedule a second reading to approve the expenditure in the amount not to exceed $250,000 from the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund to assist the Scarborough Land Trust, really this time, in purchasing 30 acres located at 91 Muzzy Road, identified by the Scarborough Tax Assessor's Map R055, Lot 014, Nonsuch River Preserve, as recommended by the Parks and Conservation Land Board, and authorize the town manager to execute any and all documents as are necessary to protect the town's interests.
I'll do my best to introduce this as well.
Thank you, sir.
Again, it's come through our normal process. As the council chair noted, the applicant in this case is in fact the Scarborough Land Trust. These 30 acres are located along the Nonsuch River. I'm trying to give you a reference point. I know there's a map in here, but if you're traveling on Gorham Road, approaching the Nonsuch restaurant, and you'll cross the Nonsuch River, the land to your right, if you will, and if you go through those trees, it opens up into kind of a former farm land, if you will. It also is viewable from the neighborhood across the river. You can look through from Cumberland Way and see some of this land. I know this is really high priority for the Land Trust. They're trying to protect all the land on either side of Nonsuch River from one end of town to the other and create a so-called blue trail. So this is in furtherance of their longstanding goal, and they're getting closer every time. So we certainly recommend approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Yeah, Councilor Anderson and then Councilor Shoup. Thank you.
So I have a question, Tom, on this one, because in the packet, it talks to how they haven't gotten the funds released for the NAWCA grant. So with the Land Trust not being here, like, what is the confidence that that money is actually gonna come? And if it doesn't come, what does that mean in terms of the ownership of the land? If we're funding 50,000 or the full 500,000 so that they can close, does it remain in the hands of the town until they can come up with alternative funds? And again, I would actually be okay, given the contiguous nature,
Mhm.
that if for some reason that were to happen, it's still a worthy purchase from the land bond fund, even if it's for town ownership. I'm just curious if this is one ever happened in the past where we've had to front load money, and what mechanisms we would have in place to make sure that, again, if for some reason it doesn't work out for the grant, knowing that grants are in special place right now, like what happens with this money in the purchase?
Yeah, I won't hazard a guess, but we can certainly get that answer for second reading. What I will say is that even when I'm authorized to sign these documents, there are occasions if things don't come as expected, that the property doesn't close and therefore we don't actually pursue it. In fact, you'll note on the cover sheet, there's a footnote that we're carrying. There's a property off Payne Road. In that case, the property didn't appraise out and properly. And
Mhm.
so although the council authorized the expenditure of $210,000, we did not in that case. So I would use the same, from my perspective, the same philosophy that what's been put forward is kind of a package of funding options, if you will. If any one of those don't come through, I certainly will reserve my right not to move forward with the purchase. But again, we'll get a more clear answer and definitive answer before second
But
reading.
if the council still wanted to move forward with the purchase with the land bond funds, despite the grant, like we would still have that option too as well to.
We would. I'm just not sure how critical the grant is in terms of either the acquisition and or the stewardship.
Okay.
So it could be critical enough where they are not interested in moving forward without it.
Counselor Shu?
Yeah, I just want to recognize the Scarborough Land Trust again as our partner in our goal for 30 by 30. And I want to reiterate what Tom said. I know they've been really focused on the Nonsuch River. And so I think I know what property that is because I had a for sale sign for a while. And I was like, what is going in there? Like, what can you do there? And so I think it's just so reassuring to see them coming in and doing those things. So thanks again.
Thank you. Other council discussion? Counselor Kane?
I'll be quick. I do think these purchases are very easy decisions for the win-win of conserving the land and preventing future development. It just doesn't seem like a tough list.
Great, thank you. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, I will go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor? I'll show that as unanimous. Thank you.
Sergeant's gonna walk in.
Welcome. So our meeting actually began at 6, and that is absolutely perfectly fine. We have voted on the first of the 2 motions that pertain to the Scarborough Land Trust and the Maine Farm
Land Trust.
Land Trust. Thank you, Maine Farm Trust. And so we are actually on to our third of the 3 orders this evening, but I would love to give you the opportunity to come to the podium. So I'll put it on the floor first. Order number 20, well, no, that's not true. I'm going to ask for public comment first. Order number 25-091 is first reading and schedule a second reading to approve the expenditure in the amount not to exceed $300,000 from the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund to assist the Scarborough Land Trust in purchasing 25 acres located at 166 Spurwink Road, identified by the Scarborough Tax Assessor's Map R098, Lot 020, as recommended by the Parks and Conservation Land Board, and authorize the town manager to execute any and all documents as are necessary to protect the town's interests. And so we do have Jessica Sargent with us here now, and I welcome you to the podium.
Well, I had not anticipated
Welcome, jump right in.
this. Very happy to be here. Very happy to hear about the other 2 properties. I think this is a first where we have 3 in one meeting. So the conservation values for the 166 Spurwink Road, expanding Pleasant Hill Preserve again, are water resources, connectivity to conserved lands, recreational access, and wildlife habitat. Hopefully you all have that in your packet. I'm not sure how much you want me to go into detail this evening. I'm guessing that you've all taken a look at it, and that is why it is third on your agenda and you waited.
Thank you very much. I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak. You always do so well on behalf of the Parks and now I'm going to say it wrong. Conservation Land Board.
It's a tongue twister.
It is. And so we appreciate you guys joining us and advocating for the use of these funds and being available should the council have any questions. So thank you. With that, is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Counselor Anderson.
So this one's my favorite so far of what we voted on, mostly because when COVID happened, my family probably walked Pleasant Hill Preserve sometimes daily, sometimes weekly during that period. And it was just, it's such a beautiful property, and what the Land Trust does there is just magic for our community. And so again, this one is special to me and just makes me grateful that we have residents who value conservation and land. But we also have, as Karen mentioned earlier, a great partnership with the Land Trust to steward these properties, to make them accessible and available to everybody in our community to enjoy, during tough times, during great times. I lost like 20 pounds because of COVID, because of this place. I gained them all back, but it's just a special place for me. So I'm excited to see the expansion there.
Thank you, Counselor Anderson. Other council comments? Oh, for me, I'll just kind of speak to all three broadly and just really highlight how diverse each of these three requests are, and just what that I really think that this speaks to the character of the town, and that it speaks to our values as a community, that we have a piece of farmland that we're seeking to allow continue to be a working farm, that we have very delicate ecosystems along the Nonsuch that we are actively working to preserve and protect. And then we also have this opportunity to expand an open space that is special to so many of our residents. And so I'm really proud of this kind of three motions and the diversity that they bring, but also what they represent for us. Other councilor comments? Councilor Kane.
I just want to point out too, and thank the community for passing that land bond overwhelmingly. It just is a great indicator to us as a council how much support there is in town for these types of purchases. So just wanted to point that out.
Very good. Councilor, comments from anyone else? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I'll show that as unanimous. Thank you. Order number 25-092 is act on the request to authorize Community Services to donate a Toro Sand Pro model infield dragger to the Scarborough Little League, and to authorize the town manager to sign any necessary paperwork.
Yes, thankfully, the council supported purchasing a replacement piece of equipment, which has been replaced. Normally, this would go to an auction, probably the one that's happening off Holmes Road as we speak. We estimate the value to be about $600. As I think the council's aware, we have very deep and good partnership with Scarborough Little League. Part of that partnership has us sharing responsibilities of field preparation. Peterson Field is a bit challenging for us on occasion to get to, just given where it is, just trailering vehicles back and forth. So we think this is a very wise move. It's going to actually help us considerably. I think Little League sees the value as well, that they'll actually be able to have equipment and do more themselves as opposed to rely so heavily on us. So I very much encourage you to consider this donation. I think it'll be well received.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Council discussion. The only thing I would say is that in my experience with Little League over the last 8 years is that there is no shortage of Little League moms and dads who will be very excited by this donation, and probably no shortage of people willing to drive it. And so I'm sure that they will all be very grateful.
Keep in mind, I believe there's something in the order of 500 participants in Scarborough Little League. So
I think it exceeds
this kind of
that. Yeah.
donation, I think, will go deep and far and wide in our community.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Show that as unanimous. Thank you. Order number 25-093 is act on the request from the Marine Resource Officer to expend funds from the Working Waterfront Reserve Fund to be used for upgrades to the municipal pier and town boat ramps. And we do have our Marine Resource Officer here. Tom, are you
Yeah,
going
I'll
to tee
just
this up?
provide a quick
Perfect.
introduction and I'll let Darren take it from there. There
Thank
are
you.
two projects that have worked their way through the Coastal Harbor and Waters Committee. One is to expand the public, expand the dock system at Pine Point. That is in direct response to many of the fishermen, the commercial fishermen needing more space for their skiffs and other support items for their endeavors. The other one is a fairly small local match for us to replace our float system. And we'll have some flexibility as to where those go, but at this point, we're thinking mostly at Pine Point, but perhaps Ferry and Clay Pits, depending on the condition. Past council has set up the so-called Working Waterfront Reserve Account. This is a combination of a number of different sources. In the first instance, it was money left over when the pier was rebuilt. That was kind of the seed money, and now certain fees go into this fund. It does have very specific dedicated purposes. It's controlled by council. And so the request is to authorize up to $50,000 for us to support both these projects. Darren Granata, Harbor Master, Marine Resource Officer, is here.
Good evening. So these two projects, one's a new dock installation that would be at the Pine Point Pier for the commercial fishing industry. There's a lot of skiff tie-up. They need a lot more room. So the fishermen actually came to me and asked me to extend that dock a little bit more. So we talked to DEP about the permitting. That's a very simple process. And then once it gets permitted, we've reached out to a few contractors for some pricing. We would drive a pile, extend a dock, and give the commercial fishermen much more space for the working waterfront. The second project was actually approached from the state. They came to us about replacing some boat floats at Pine Point and also at Ferry Beach and or Clay Pits. So the funding on that item, I believe, it's about a $52,000 project, which the state is going to pay $42,600 and the town would pay around $7,500. And then there's some money in there for some chain kits.
Thank you, Darren. Does anyone have any questions for Darren? Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Council discussion? Councilor Doherty?
Yeah, I obviously have very personal contact to this because I work right out of Ferry Beach with the docks there. They replaced them, I can't remember how many years ago. It has been a while. They look a little rusty. The ones before, the first ones they did was not pressure treated lumber, and they were rotting, and they had to be replaced fairly quickly. You know, hey, you can say it's free money from the state, but who's the state? We are. My personal beliefs is I think they're in really good shape. I'm next to them every day, and they're pressure treated, and they look like they're in excellent shape. I think they should look at them again. I mean, maybe paint them. But as far as the dock at Pine Point, I don't know. I'm not over there, and I'm sure those guys, they said that they need an extension or whatever. They probably do need that. But as far as the Ferry Beach side, my side, you know, we always complain about we never get any money or anything done over there. Now we're offered something that we don't need, to put it bluntly. But that's just to let you know what's going on. But I guess if it's, you know, the state wants to offer it up, I think it would make more sense to, if they want to invest some money into it, is to add on to the finger piers that they have and make them useful. We said it way back when they first did it. It's like you've got these finger piers at the high water mark. I mean, they're out of water most of the time, and they're useless to me. I don't use them. The kids love to play on them in the summer. They're a great play dog, but so I would suggest that if this money is available to keep the ones that we have there, and if they want to give us some more new ones, is to add on to that and make them go down the beach further. So they're more useful. A float on the end of them, that's how you usually do it, is you have a float on the end of them, you have the piers down, and then you have a float at the end that's in the actual channel, which Ferry Beach has filled in for years, and there isn't much of a channel there now, but that's just my input.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of information, both of these are for Pine Point, right? Not Ferry Beach, correct?
What I understood, he said it was, there's a Pine Point and then there's the Ferry Beach and Clay Pits, I think.
Yeah, the floats, I think we do have flexibilities. I think Councilor Doherty's point's well taken. We need to take a very clear and inventory of all the condition. There's no sense in replacing a float that doesn't need it. So I think we do have flexibility between Clay Pits, Ferry and Pine Point.
Okay.
And your reserve account does give you the authority to use those monies to support any of those locations. I failed to mention the current balance in that reserve account is 237, almost 238,000.
Thank you, Tom. Any other council discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I show that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Order number 25-094 is to act on the request to set the date and time for the regular municipal elections for Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 at the Scarborough High School Alumni Gym. Sign the warrant, appoint the warden and warden clerk, set the hours for voter registration, and act on the appointments of election clerks pursuant to Chapter 200, Article 8, Nominations and Elections, Title 21A 503, and authorize the town clerk to make any additional appointments as necessary. Tody, do you have anything to say?
This is a normal process that we follow for every election. We used to have to do the state warrant, but we no longer have to do that. But for the charter, this is required and we recommend approval.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any council discussion? No, the only thing I will say is that, Karen, we did have some documents that need to be signed by the full council. So before you leave this evening, I do have those in front of me. With that, I will go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor? I show that as unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is non-action items. There are none. Item 11 is council member comments. Councilor Schupp.
So I know I showed up late again. I'm having trouble. John, I thought I heard you say that you and Corey wanted to take up eliminating term limits for committees. Sure. And so I think I'll take my counselor comment to speak to that. I've served on the Appointments and Negotiations Committee for the last 3 years. We spent a lot of time over those years coming up with an ordinance. Typically, if an ordinance goes into effect, you want to give it a little bit of a time to see how it works and and if it's working or not. So I think personally, if this is something that the council wants to pursue, I think we should talk to all the committees and see how they work, because I can tell you right now, I'm looking at a committee member that would not be a committee member today, but for term limits, and they've brought so much value to that committee. I think part of the reason we introduced that was we had committees that were somewhat stagnant, and I can tell you with like the Community Services Board, forcing the shakeup, I think brings new perspectives and gives new residents the opportunity, because we were sitting and looking at applications that were sitting there for a very long time. While I appreciate that some of the committees, I know some of them are losing some like knowledge that is hard to lose, they still live in the town. They can still show up to the meetings. This is a conservation. I have had this with one of the committees because they're losing a very valuable member. And I just because someone doesn't serve on a committee doesn't mean they still can't contribute to the town. And I think as the town continues to expand, I do think we should give the ordinance a little more time to see if it works, check in with the committees, the chairs, liaisons, because I think it was a little bit tough to do, but I do feel like seeing it play out now, I've seen the benefit within the committees that I serve on. And so I just would like to put that out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Other councilor comments this evening? Yes, Councilor Kane.
I'll just follow up on that and ask, if somebody term limits out, how long do they have to be out before they can rejoin?
Well, they have to wait a year, or if they stay on if there's no replacement, they stay on. So if there's no applications, they just stay on. They stay on until an application comes, or they can wait a year. And then also the council has the discretion to be like, okay, no one's been on it for 6 months. Like, we're just going to appoint someone. And so I think there's never a gap. I think it's also to
mix it up.
Great, thanks.
Other council member comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.